and we're in it.
Should we just start a sales podcast too?
My brother, he'll like call me like every once in a while, and we'll catch up. He was like, "Bro, we should start a podcast," and we like recapped everything we talked about in the same conversation. I think we talked about global economic meltdowns, aliens, the Patriots, and what we were having for dinner.
You should name the you could just name the podcast that.
It was just like random things with the long bros. We came up with a couple of different stupid names, but that pretty much encapsulates our conversations in my family. We just have like random conversations, and it's not like, oh, we go from like how aliens are like causing this global economic meltdown, which is influencing like my like meal, and like the Patriots are at the heart of it, like, so it's like it links. It's just like my brother called and I was like, oh, what's up, bro? I'm listening to this podcast right now by like Joe Rogan with what's his name, Bob Lazar. Have you seen that? So we jump right into aliens, and then like out of nowhere I'll be like, oh, what did you think about the Cam Newton trade? Like we just like, we're always like so like in different like mentalities.
I forgot to bring that up to you, dude. Yeah. What the heck?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see Cam Newton on the Patriots. I'm not gonna lie.
So stoked. Let's go, baby. Okay, so like here's the thing. I see
Edelman all day, baby.
Oh man, I see it going one of two ways. Okay, so like if you're like a Patriots hater, like please just cover your ears for a few minutes. Like give it like 2 minutes, and then like you can jump back on. So strategy number 1, Jarrett Stidham is gonna be our man, and hi, babe. I'm doing the Gainz podcast.
Wow, perfect timing. You can't plan this at all.
Man, that's our folks. Episode 33, I think. Check it out if you haven't checked that out already. So I can go one of two ways. Jarrett Stidham is starter for the New England Patriots. Cam Newton is like this crazy, insane, like backup that does like wildcat offense. He'll line up as like a halfback. He'll do like crazy trick plays. He might line up as like a wide receiver, do crazy trick plays, and like teams are just like, whoa, what the heck? Like they're like looking for it, but not really, because Belichick just pulls out like this craziness out of his nether realm. Or 2, Cam Newton is the starting quarterback for the Patriots and just like completely changes our offense. So
are you guys saying that you're going to be the next Saints or something?
Maybe.
Hey, and when you said to cover your ears for the first 2 minutes, I mean, the people that I grew up around with, they don't like my team either. I'm a Vikings fan, so yeah. I it doesn't even matter to me. I don't really care.
No, I'm just saying strategy.
I didn't even know we were starting the podcast. I guess we're leaving this in there now. We're leaving all of it in now, huh?
We can keep the banter, or we can start it now. Gainz Nation, what's going on now? Yeah. So
episode 39.
Yeah, it's insane.
Gainz podcast. I just wanted to introduce. That's my main man,
Roman.
And I am Antoine. And man, you guys are in it to win it / hashtag Instagram influencer. I thought you would LOL at the post that I made of the last episode of I don't know if I should be the one you should be paying attention to. I'm just trying to be an Instagram influencer. I saw something like that. I said.
I did like it. You gotta stick your butt out and posteriorly tilt your hips.
But after we're done recording this, guys, Roman and I were talking about before we started recording and whatnot. We're gonna go ahead and post on. We're even gonna put a video on how to get to the program of our little segment, return to the gym, or returning back to the gym, or returning back to those sweet, loving mother gains, because of all the things going on in today's world. So if you haven't looked at our YouTube channel, you haven't looked at, the audio versions, we have put the Google Sheets document in there for weeks 1 through 4. Roman and I are going to be working on expanding that. Obviously, today we're going to be talking about phase 2 accumulation phase, and we are going to go over, and that should push it to about week 8, right, Roman?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then hopefully by the end of this episode, and once this releases, probably hopefully the weekend or the week of this thing releasing, this podcast releasing, we'll hopefully have a sort of a plan for, weeks 5 through 8, so you guys can go ahead and check it out. Anything else, Roman, you want to get into and give the folks an update? I'm still jealous of Roman because I still have not entered a gym yet, and Roman's going to just put me to shame this year with everything.
Let's get it. Man, I know some of our listeners are probably in states where it looks like the state governments are going to be like cracking back down and like closing things back up again, at least temporarily. So I definitely feel for those people. I think there were some scares in Illinois or Chicago at the least that the mayor was going to close down gyms. But from what I read, it was just like a couple of news articles. It looks like their recommendation is to keep fitness classes to 10 or less people because apparently some people in the Chicago or Illinois Department of Public Health believe that there's like a recent spike. I don't see it in the data. I check it pretty like frequently. I have some like interesting views on COVID, but I don't need to share them here. But I do keep a close eye on like rates and different metrics such as like daily infection rates, like death rates, like stuff like that. So they've like said that they're being cautious. This is Chicago in particular, being cautious about like some recent like spikes. Like I said, I don't see it in the data. But I'm also like a lay person. They could be, actually like in hospitals and seeing like different things. Like it could just be like purely out of an abundance of caution. Probably the catchphrase that's going to come out of this time. So it is what it is. We need to kind of do what we need to do. Don't like go breaking into gyms or anything stupid like that. People work really hard. Some people like put their life savings into that. So it's important that we respect that. So the people that like are in that situation, really feel for you. We might come out with like a special Gainz podcast where we talk about like, we could like, Antoine and I will confer on this like after the podcast. And we might come up with like a separate program, like an auxiliary workout from home program in case you do have to start working out from home again and you just like essentially lost your rights to go to the gym, which I know it sucks. Like I feel for you. But yeah, so what we're going to do today is just talk to you about the accumulation phase. So if you watched our Gainz podcast, I think it was 3, maybe 4 episodes ago, talking about a primer phase or a resensitization phase.
36.
36. What we talked about is just getting your body used to like the main lifts. That's what I've been doing. So with the squat, deadlift, bench, and then adding in, whatever accessories you want. We'll sprinkle some in there for you in the Google Sheets, but you can choose them at your leisure. We will give like a mock template so you can take it as is, or you can kind of maneuver it around. I don't think we're going to lock it. So what we'll ask you to do is just like copy and paste it into an Excel doc or another Google Sheet. Don't start editing it because then we're going to have to go back and like, because I don't have a master copy. We're just like trusting people not to like troll us. So like if you want to troll us, like, you won. You like can totally troll us.
I don't think so. I think it's set where only you and I can edit it.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I think, and we'll have to test this out. I'll have to like have Sam. Maybe I could do that too as well. I could just test it and go into it and see if like you could just copy and paste it instead of just editing. But I think I want to say we should be good on that front. So hopefully no troll or troll.
We'll see. But for those that are gonna be like able to access a gym, hopefully I can. I'm gonna be in Massachusetts again soon, so I'm gonna be doing a lot of workouts from home. So you'll probably see videos. I'll get better at posting too. I've been really bad at posting while in quarantine, but you'll probably see a lot of like posts from my dingy basement at home. But it'll be awesome because I have some dope equipment there. It's like really old school. I have like this like thin like iron bar that I use for like bench and deadlift and squats and stuff like that. So you'll see some interesting setups for sure.
Does it even weigh 45 pounds?
I just call it 10 pounds. I have no idea what it weighs. It's like I think it's like my brother might call it like 1/2 inch OD iron piping. It's like piping that wasn't routed, I think, and somebody just threw like an aluminum sheathing over it, which just kind of moves around. So you have to like hold it, like the sheathing, like on one side or on like both sides, so it doesn't like move on you, and it like pinches your like your hands. You're like, oh, son of a bitch, I just want to finish this set. So it's like about as ghetto as it gets, but it's a piece of like iron, it's a piece of steel, whatever. So it gets the job done.
And you could load it pretty well too.
I think 175 pounds is the most I trust with it. I don't know if I trust much more than that, because then it starts doing some crazy bending stuff, and I'm like, oh man, if this snaps on my back, like I don't want to impale like my brother for spotting me, you know?
Yeah. That's good.
Do high rep stuff. Anyways, so the main point of the accumulation phase is to now that you've like built up your tolerance for these lifts, we want to get you back to where you were at beforehand. So that's a big broad picture of what it is, and we'll go over the details with you now.
And to your left corner, Roman Lai. But no. Yeah, this is definitely a good starting point. You know, obviously, the phase 1 that we went over in episode 36 is pretty much going over everything that you kind of lost, like the cognitive thoughts of like where to position yourself in a squat, how many steps you've taken out, you know, what you do before you deadlift. Some might rock, some might, you know, shimmy themselves before a deadlift, you know, things like that nature. More if it's like a specialty movement, you know, if you Olympic lift, you know exactly what we're talking about with like the snatch, the clean, and all that good stuff. But as Roman said, in the broad spectrum, it is an overall phase to get you to kind of where you're at before when you know, before all this happened. So the whole goal is to, once you get accumulated to that stress again, those movements, the movement patterns, you're going to be building back that strength that you had. Honestly, you know, maybe you might still not be there fully, but you'll be there, I would say, a good like percentage number, maybe like 80 to 100%, where, you know, I still think like on week 5 you might still struggle with some movements, but that's totally fine. You know, before you were at home, you might have been, you know, putting on more fat than muscle, losing some muscle, and you know, it just this is going to be a great phase to you to be able to put back on that muscle, try to lose that fat, like unwelcoming fat. Or if you're like me, you never gained or lost weight this whole time, and maybe your body still might be acclimated. I don't know. I still haven't been back in the gym, so it's going to be different for everybody. So I don't know. Like I said, hopefully we'll be back in the gym. Sam and I did talk about it again. I've talked to numerous people, but still, I don't know. You just don't know it during this time. It's kind of weird timing. Yeah. So pretty much, you know, with my viewpoint within like this phase, Roman's going to go over kind of a different viewpoint, but what I think too with increasing weights and increasing like volume, it looks like you're in overall spectrum, you're going to be increasing weights about 5% per session. So, you know, it's not crazy. We're not talking about like, hey, we're still not talking about jumping from 135 to 225, 135 to 145, 150, then 165, 160, stuff like that. Those jumps are going to get you back where you started from. Obviously, if you know those base numbers, try to work up a plan. If you're not utilizing our plan, just work up a plan where you're going to have that ending point to get where you started back in March. So depending on who you are and what you're doing, that will change individually. And also to note too, I found it interesting as I was researching this too. During this phase, you're going to notice that probably phase 1 you took a lot more rest than you would do in this phase, because see, the thing is, your body's still accumulating the stress, accumulating the heart rates, your breathing, you're getting back to understanding how your body works as a whole with different movements. Because if you're doing home workouts like Roman and I, we were doing like high volume / low weight, but when you're back in the gym, you probably remember how it felt when you did RDLs with like 225 pounds, but it's going to be different if you're doing barbell RDLs with 135. So during this phase, you're going to notice that you're probably going to want to take your shorter rest periods, because the last phase you probably took more time when it comes to the movement patterns and all the volume accumulated within the sets. So I thought that was interesting when it comes to researching like this phase as well. You're going to start noticing that the workouts are going to become a little bit harder, which obviously this is the point of, doing this in phases and not like going all out, day 1, week 1, all that good stuff. So, and also too, there's a little, I might put it as like the title, or like on the picture of this title of the podcast. But with phase 1, it's more of like a general prep. And then like after phase 1, after like weeks 4, you're going to like specifically get into like your prep again within like your overall training. So, you're getting more into specific training again. Like if you're a powerlifter / bodybuilder like me, obviously you care about the squat, bench, deadlift, but you're going to be doing more of those things. You might even increase like let's just say you're benching once a week in phase 1, you might be increasing bench to 2 times a week for the volume. So it just depends, and you're definitely trying to accumulate that specific preparation of when you were doing this in March, and you're overall getting your strength back. And yeah, I think overall that's about it. I know I kind of went on longer than I thought I was going to, Roman, but kind of general knowledge and kind of a starting point for this phase. So Roman, what's your like thoughts about this, and kind of what you wanted to go over to as well?
Yeah, so I'll touch upon where like you and I might do things like slightly different, but more like means of like semantics, and I'll give like my explanation why. So as I had referenced, the reason why we're calling this the accumulation phase, because this is where like a lot of the fatigue and a lot of the volume is going to build up before we jump into peaking. And just
and I forgot, and if you don't mention it, Roman, rest weeks or rest periods, because yeah. I know we didn't talk too much about it because we didn't really need to in weeks 1 through 4, but sorry, I right when you were talking about it, I'm like, damn, I forgot about that.
No, it's good because I did see that, so I made a mental note about that. So that's a really good point. If you went through the resensitization or the primer phase, and you're like coming into the accumulation phase and you're like, whoa, I went way too hard, way too fast. I was like, those Gainz podcasters are like going way too easy on me, and you feel like your body's trashed. Take a deload week before you start accumulating, the accumulation week. Or you could like week 1 of accumulation could be your deload, and then you jump into week 2, or however you want to do that. But yeah, I know a lot of people, like I was wondering if I was getting towards that point because I was kind of like pushing up the intensities, and this is intended for like benching 3 times a week. That's a moderate frequency. squatting 2 times a week, and then starting off with deadlifting 2 times a week because the relative loads are going to be pretty light. And then in an accumulation phase, we're jumping to just 1 time a week. So benching 3 times a week. I was supposed to hit like 205 3x6 yesterday, but it was not, or 3x5 I think yesterday. It was absolutely not in the cards. So I hit 185 by 5 for like my last like warm up set. I was like, that actually felt like a working set. Let me hit it one more time. Let's see like, what's going on. I got like 185 by 4. I had no spot. So I was being very, very, very conservative. Like I might have had a couple like, 3, maybe 4 reps in the tank, maybe. But I was like, whoa, this is a little bit more than like I was bargaining for. And like I just transitioned to something else. I've been benching a lot, so maybe it was just like fatigue that got to me. I'm also like in a kind of sort of mini cut, so the energy availability isn't like super high. Sometimes I'll go into workouts being like starving, so that doesn't.
Yeah,
always
he only
bode
cut
well.
He cut his calories from 5,000 to 4,500, guys. So it can't be really that much
Oh
energized.
man, I can't wait to mass again. I don't know how long it'll go, but I'm like starting to see like little bits and bops in my abs. So I'm like, oh yeah, cool, it's working a little bit. I definitely took a little break because I was on vacation, but I was still working out, not as frequently, but I was still working out and I was staying very active. But I just like stopped tracking for the first time in like months because I was like, I just kind of want to like
Enjoy
enjoy
it.
time with
Yeah.
family, and if I
Yeah.
want to eat something, I'm gonna eat something. But that's a sidetrack. So the reason why I bring that up is if you're dieting, folks, like make sure to keep your volumes low because you're like not gonna be able to recover. My chest was like sore for like 3 days afterwards because I was like ramping up the volumes. I think maybe it was last week. I hit like 195 3x6. And I was like, oh, that was like pretty good. Like I think I can like keep moving up. And I was just like 3 days later, it's still trashed. And I'm like, oh man, like maybe I'm doing a little too much, but I'm totally fine. I'm totally recovered. I'm gonna hit bench
Yeah.
again today. Woo! No.
With Billy?
Today's back. Today's back. Never mind.
With Billy or
Tomorrow
no?
morning's bench. No, Billy's also doing back and by today. So I'm gonna do like deads with like a back and by variation.
Okay.
You also notice that like the way we've set this up is like I haven't really said anything, but it's quasi like full body because it's like muscle group oriented. And it's very random, which I did on purpose because I just kind of want to mess with like a different scheme. So you have like hamstrings, like with like back, with like chest. So I don't know, something to look forward to if you're like, oh, I want to see what like this accumulation phase is about. We're gonna definitely throw a lot of curveballs at you, folks.
Oh, yeah.
So we covered deloading, which I wanted to take a note of. So the increase in the accumulation phase, I think is probably gonna be a little bit less than like 5% per session because once again, you don't have to do this if you don't want, but it's like we're building out this program to bench 3 times a week. That would be a shit ton. That's a 15% jump, and I'm probably around like 75 to 80% of my like 1RM for my working sets right now for like 3 sets of 5 per session. So at that rate, I'd be like into week 2 and I'd be like doing like 1 rep max testing like every time. So it'll probably be in the realm of like 1 to 3%. It depends per lift. We're gonna have both RPE, so rate of perceived exertion, as well as a percent because people like to do both. So we'll have both of those in the Google Sheet for you. Pick whatever you want, or you can interchange. Remember, RPE is a skill. We might be able to talk a little bit more in depth about that at another podcast. But there's no way you can just start saying like, oh, that was definitely like an RPE like 6 or an RPE 7 and get it every time. Like even now, like I'll tell myself, oh, I'll do RPE 8, and then I find myself like failing on the set. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I could have gotten 2 more. Like no, like
No.
you're on like extensions, like you barely like got the damn weight off of like the cable. So I think it'll be like slightly smaller jumps, but refer to the Google Sheet. That'll be your Bible. Once again, please don't alter it and like put in your data. Just copy, just drag your mouse over the whole thing, copy it, move it over to another Excel doc or another Google sheet if you don't have Excel, because Excel is expensive. Let's see. You can shorten your rest periods, but rest periods, I believe, is like a very like individualistic thing. Some people, based off of, like their fiber type or like the different workout, like bench, I seem to be recovering a whole lot quicker than like deadlift, and squat is like kind of falls somewhere in between. The general recommendation is like 2 to 5 minutes, whatever works for you. You don't have to stick to that. You can time it if you want. Oftentimes I time it. I haven't been timing it recently. I've just been kind of going based off of feel. The things to look out for, Dr. Mike Isertel talks about this a lot. Local fatigue to the muscle. Does it feel like the muscle is still like weak? Well, give it another minute. Your like aerobic like systems, like cardiopulmonary systems, blah blah blah. Like, how are you breathing? Are you still gassed? Like, give it another minute. Give it 2 minutes. Like, try and like calm yourself down, bring your heart rate down a little bit, and then essentially like the go time factor. Like, are you ready to like hit it? Like, get after it. That was like a very like oversimplification of what he says, but like good enough. Let's see. Intensity is obviously going to go up because we're increasing the weight each week by increasing the RPE and or increasing the percent. So you can take a deload whenever you want to. I say choose a deload paradigm, meaning let's say like 3 accumulation weeks to 1 deload week. And like carry that through into like peaking as well. We'll explain in like the peaking podcast that deloading is essentially like implicitly built in there. But I like it when people will choose a deloading paradigm and then they stick to it, because then they can say like, oh, I think I could have eked out 1 more week. But now you know. So let's say you chose like a 3 to 1 ratio, 3 accumulation weeks to 1 deload week. Now you can say like, I can probably go to a 4 to 1 and still be okay. And then maybe you'll test that out and be like, I think I could actually extend it out 1 more week. Then you test again, 5 to 1. Okay, that was overshooting it. Now you know 4 to 1 is the sweet spot. But if you never do that, if you never take that time, remember, it's like 3 months. Like, if you want to lift for like the next 30 years, like 3 months is such a nominal period of time. And I think that covers everything. Of course, like if you all have any questions, feel free to reach us. You can always DM us on Instagram. You can always comment on our YouTube posts. If you see us like on the streets, like make sure you're wearing your mask and say like, hey, like Gainz Nation, like I got a question about like the accumulation phase. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, did I miss anything? Was there anything else that you wanted to add, Antoine?
No, I think the only thing I wanted to add was like the deload thing, because I totally forgot to talk about that. But yeah, I was like, after I talked about all that, I was like, oh, damn, deload. But yeah, deload was the only thing I wanted to really make sure that was thrown out there. But no, that was some good information. And I totally forgot to, with like the higher number with weights in specific training. Yeah, I wouldn't say 5%. I'm glad that you caught that. Yeah, 5% is a lot. But I mean, yeah, the 1 to 3% was probably more accurate. I was trying to get at like an overall level, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I realized like, well, if someone squats 500, you're gonna get in big trouble going up 5%. You are gonna get your ass handed to you. So
yeah, they're at 350 1 week, and then like 2 weeks later they're at like 455, and they're just like, oh my god, these guys are killing me. But that's where like if you're at that level, like use RPE, and like if you've never used it, start using it, because like the benefit of RPE is it's auto-regulatory by nature. So if you're like, and we know pretty well, like once you have like at least like 2 years under your belt of lifting, like, all right, let's say your max, like 1 rep max squat is 500. You know what an RPE 7 is. You don't know exactly, but like you go in, you're like, I feel like shit today. Dude, hit like 400, hit 405 for like, whatever, 4 or like 5. and like that's probably your RP7. Like you know, and like
Yeah.
if you need to be conservative because like you feel like shit, be conservative because you feel like shit. Or if you feel really terrible, take a damn deload. And for those of you that haven't seen our deload episode, that's just an intentional period of time where you're gonna do less. You're not gonna work out as hard. You might do a little bit less volume, might do a little less intensity. You might do both at the same time. And the reason we do that is to have an appreciable reduction in fatigue so you can get back after it. Because if you keep on knocking your head against the wall, you're going to knock your head through the wall, but then you're going to probably find yourself on the floor.
That sounds like your inbox at work.
Yes.
Awesome, guys. Anything else you want to close out with? I think the only thing, just we're gonna figure out how to put it on our link tree for Instagram, and then we'll get the program updated for you guys for sure in the upcoming week or so.
Yeah. Roman Long, 1031 on Instagram, Antoine Coletta, or Gainz Podcast. Those are our 3 handles. You can find us on YouTube by searching Gainz Podcast, Antoine Coletta, or just by searching Gainz Podcast.
Yeah, I think if you,
like,
as I say, Gainz Podcast, we're the only Gainz Podcast out there. So
yeah.
as long as you spell Gainz with a Z, you'll find us. You don't even need to type my name.
Yep.
My name's already hard enough to spell.
Antoine space Kaleta, Antoine Coletta. We're on Buzzsprout. I listened to last week's podcast on Buzzsprout. I really like Buzzsprout. Apple Podcasts we're on, right? Apple Podcasts?
Yep, we're on, Apple
Stitcher?
Podcasts, Stitcher, even the podcast app. I know some people will download the podcast app, Spotify, you name it. The only thing we're really not on is like SoundCloud, which, I only listen to SoundCloud for like underground music. And I don't know anyone that's ever suggested it. So if you do listen to this and for some reason you want us to be on SoundCloud, I'll go through those measures to figure out how to be on there. But until someone says something, I'm not going to try it because there's no point for us, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's just another avenue, but it's just another thing we have to learn. And I think we've got a lot of platforms already as is.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. That was fun. Let us know if you have any questions.
Peace, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.